this is Aromie here. Welcome back to our life, beginning as always, Derek DLC. We're back getting on our butt home, assuming that the story's gonna continue with us going to the water park the next day. As soon as you both climbed into the comfortable seats of Derek's car, he was ready for a new adventure. What's the plan now? We've got what's left of the day to ourselves. I'm not sure. You intended to really consider the question, but not a single thought had a chance to fully form before Derek sent disconnected mental threads flying with a shout.
Oh!
Shoot! What's wrong? His head knocked against the back of his seat and he slid lower in defeat.
This sucks.
I didn't get the cons from Nico. That's what we could have done, obviously. We'd already set everything up, almost everything. Derek offered an apologetic grin. Hey, it's not as if I remembered. That does make it less embarrassing for me. Thanks, Chico. You're welcome. He scraped himself up off the chair and choosing to lean over the steering wheel instead.
All right.
Another day, then. It'd be way too awkward to go back up there and beg Nicholas for a switch. That's something we've got to play smooth. But without it, there's not much to do at the apartment. Words drifted off, his mind working, and without another interruption, yours was as well. The loudest sound in the cabin of the still car was Derek drumming his fingers against the steering wheel. What did you want to do? That was the question. You had a starting point. It was worth considering not just what to do in general, but what could you do while you were there in that location? That location, of course. You couldn't be far from the big park your mom sometimes took you to. The same place Derek frequented with his brothers. I've got it. Let's go to the park.
Leave it to me.
Totally. That'd be perfect, and I know exactly how to get there. Buckle in. He didn't have to tell you twice. He snapped the seatbelt into place for a ride. Anticipation stirred in the air, and the car switched to life. Then Derek pulled out onto the street. The park was even closer than you'd guessed, because mere minutes after you'd come up with the plan, it had been executed. And luckily, there were a few free spots in the lot. Parking at the park was no trouble. Derek did a hop, skip, and jump out the door, around the back, and bit inside the popped open trunk. He rummaged around for a minute before slamming it shut. He joined him outside and spotted immediately what the mini pit stop was for. He locked his car with a clicker in one hand, but tucked under the other arm was a well-worn soccer ball. Everything was ready. You and Derek leisurely wandered down the path towards the heart of the park. When you officially arrived at your destination, the sun was barely peeking over the horizon. It wasn't dark quite yet, but shadows were threatening to fully embrace the scene any minute. Scattered clumps of strangers enjoyed the summer evening all around the perfectly trimmed field of grass. Parents with their children, groups of teens, elderly pairs. People of all stages of life were there to share in similarly yet entirely unique experiences. Derek stood by your side. You could hear him inhale deeply through his nose. He took in the sight contentedly. You glanced away from the wide expanse in front of you to face Derek. Sorry, I'm trying to burp. Okay. He smiled the moment your eyes met. The ball was shifting from one hand to the other. Want to kick this around? What? I thought we were gonna take turns sitting on it. Maybe that would have happened if I was Nicholas, but you're at the park with Derek, and he actually uses balls for their intended purpose. I think I can live with that.
Awesome.
Cool. The two of you claim a far corner of the grass for your own purposes. No one was likely to interrupt you or be hit by a misfired ball there. Derek let the soccer ball fall to the ground with a slight bounce. He warmed up by juggling it side to side between his legs, popping it up on the top of one foot, and letting it drop off again. Hi, Derek. Where is our relationship? We're friends, right? But we like each other, but we're not committed yet to a relationship? Is that where we stand? Working the ball over that way was a second nature to him. Derek might not have even intentionally decided to do it. It was purely habit. But then he rolled the ball your way with the top of his toes. You put more distance between him and you before kicking the ball across the field to return it to the sender. He caught it effortlessly under his heel. The game was on. Back and forth. An easy rhythm developed between you and him. There wasn't anyone in the world you could sync with better than Derek. Thanks for not canceling our plans with the water park.
Don't worry about that.
I wouldn't miss it for anything, and you didn't doubt that for a second. The day grew later and the park slowly emptied of other people. In the quiet of twilight, the smacking sounds of the soccer ball against feet echoed loudly. One catch of Derek's was especially impressive. He'd stopped the ball without looking, his fond green eyes squarely on your face. But the longer you played, the more the light in his features dimmed. It had been a gradual decline now that you'd noticed it. However, it was impossible to ignore now. He weakly passed the ball over to you and was going to stop short. You had to draw closer to him to even get it. His complete loss of energy was concerning enough that you paused the exchange. For a moment, you only watched Derek stand there, shoulders slumped and expression defeated. You felt grateful for the excuse to be nearer to him, given by the slow kick because he spoke distantly to himself. It would have been impossible to hear from the full length that used to be between you. And you still had to strain your ears to not miss his words. I can't believe how long it's been. I'm here with you, in my old park. So much is like it was before, but it's not the same. Why can't I feel the way I used to about it? He mentioned a similar sentiment at the mall and when you visited Sunset Bird too. Derek pushed it off each time before. That thought had continued to eat away at him despite how much he'd avoided confronting it. What's wrong? Why did you come back to the city? Why didn't you believe your dad when he said you were successful? You know you could talk to me about anything, right? Derek, what happened? Has something bothered you? Pointedly sent the soccer ball over again, putting the ball literally and metaphorically in Derek's court. He pressed the ball under his heel and stared at you just as hard. Oh damn, it's dark now. Distant lamps flickered on around the park. The darkness in Derek's features was contrasted even more strongly when lit up from behind. It was much later than you realized it was. You know my life story, most of it at least. I wanted to be good at sports, and I tried. In high school and college, I put my all into it. After that, there's not a lot of ways you can go further with it. You can coach or teach or aim to go pro. I had that chance. I could have tried out to make playing an actual career. Really? That was incredible, and it left you entirely stunned. And all the calls you'd had, and during the entire time you'd been here with him, he never hinted at anything like that. That's right. He owned up to the mission with deeply furrowed brows and a self-directed sneer. Maybe I would have made it in the minor leagues, maybe even the majors. Maybe I would have face-planted, but I didn't get far enough to find out because I quit. Uh-oh. He twisted away from you with a pained shout. Derek struck the soccer ball off towards nowhere with all his strength. It shot into the distance, vanishing completely in the inky skyline before you ever saw it start to slow. Derek stared at where the old ball from his much younger days had gone, even though it was truly and thoroughly gone. I gave up and left, and that's it. Damn, what do you say here? Have you been okay? Obviously, no. Obviously, he doesn't want to hear this either. Let's just look at him with concern. Derek's solemn mask stayed perfectly set, his empty hand squeezed into iron ball fist, solid and not too heavy to hold up. I did love sports. I think I did. Sometimes I'm not sure I can remember. What I do know is that I had something to prove. If I ever stopped, it felt like I'd be giving up. I'd be a quitter and a failure who couldn't cut it. And I could never arrive either. There was always another goal in the distance that I still hadn't reached, so I had to keep going. Derek's eyes were hazy, his chest rose and fell at an unsteady pace. He still hadn't stopped looking out at the dark, expecting and getting nothing from it. Downgrading my playing to nothing more than a hobby would have been the same as not playing at all. Wasted effort, wasted potential, what a shame. That's what people would think.
That's what I thought.
I know it's true. I know it's true. All I did was develop those skills. If I don't use them, then what was the point of trying so hard? For a second time, a long-hidden anger crackled. He had faced you in his fury, but again, Derek let it settle back to somberness before continuing to address you. But like I said, what does that mean? Where could that go other than doing it forever? How did it take me this long to realize something that obvious? I was going to have to do it forever. That would have been fine if I had actually wanted to spend my whole life and all my time on perfecting my passing skills. But no, I'm not that smart. From the start, it was a means to an end. I'd be good at sports, and then I'd feel worth something, and then I could really live my life. Missing time with friends and family, the crazy hours. I had been waiting for when that would finally stop. It never did and never would unless I stopped it. You can see the results of my hard work and great planning right in front of you. I went home as the guy who couldn't make it. I got my life back and I don't feel the tiniest bit better. It might be worse than when I was more thick-headed and could tell myself I was really doing something. Being here has to turn back the clock. I can't look forward to what life could be when I'm grown up. I'm just an adult who wasted so much of my life already because I had a chip on my shoulder. And I'm so pissed off. His face fell into his hands. That was where the story of Derek stopped. You resolved to reassure him somehow. You felt terrible he wasn't proud of what he's done. You chaffed against his over-the-top self-pitying. What the fuck? It was frustrating hearing him speak so badly of himself. It felt terrible. How did it end up like that? If there was one person in this world who deserved to hold his head high, it was Derek Suarez. You still have plenty of time. Life is just getting started. I'm proud of you. You can tell me I'm wrong. It's true. You've done so much for so many people. That is already worth something. Derek, you demand way too much of yourself. It's okay to just live. Dude, you're only 23. Carefully, Derek's face lifted. His shoulders remained bowed though you could see his eyes. Regret is what you saw in them, but you had his attention. You're irreplaceable to your family and to me. No one has your character. No one has your determination. No one considers others more. You're not a quitter or a failure or anything else like that. I can't let you keep believing being you is a waste. You should enjoy every day you have coming. I'll be here to remind you of that and to help make sure that happens. Make sure it happens. Sorry, I can't even... Finally, small smiles began to settle on both of your faces once again. The gloom wasn't insurmountable. Nothing was when you and Derek were together. You were a team. It was evident in the way he looked at you. Facing the darkness around him left Derek lost, but fears and reservations faded when he had you to lean on. And it was the same for you with him.
I can't say no to that.
You're the best person I know. He stood tall in front of you with a smile perked on just one side. Not because he couldn't make it whole this time. He was smirking. Okay, I'm about to tell you something that will not be a surprise. My dad did football when he was in high school and college. Hearing stories of that is where my sport aspiration came from. Though it was a little original since I ended up going for a different sport. Derek wanted to be like his father. I'd never heard such a thing.
I figured.
Also, not a surprise was that I sucked at it, and I was scrawny, and I hated that. Getting better became the main driving force in life. And focusing on that, putting in so much effort there, and kind of made everything else easier. Being the oldest, having responsibilities in my family, having to be reliable. It felt less scary when there was an even bigger goal ahead. Everything else was nothing. I never had to directly confront my feelings of inadequacy and accept myself for what I was, because instead, I could say I wouldn't be the way I was forever. I'd become successful, but I put proving myself and being talented over being happy. I missed so many things. I barely let myself see you, and there was no way I could have started a relationship when I knew I wouldn't have been able to prioritize it as much as I should. You deserved better, but things were happening. You were there through all those years.
I could have just been happy the whole time.
Depressing. Derek's voice disappeared as a whisper in the dark. His eyes closed, and he took a moment of silence to mourn the life he might have known if he'd had the confidence to go for it sooner. Guess what, though, baby boy? She's still here. She's still here. Like, my girl's still here for you. I know it's later than you wanted, but I hope you can be happy now. It's not your fault. You don't need to blame yourself. You never had to prove yourself to me. Well, let's not miss any more chances. I think you're really admirable, Derek. I feel that sting all too well. Well, let's not miss any more chances. Your voice reached Derek. His eyes fluttered open, unafraid to face what was ahead of him.
I know.
Yeah, the only way to make this worse would be to spend the next decade wasting time feeling shitty about all the time I missed not enjoying myself. The irony of that is too painful. You embraced him, took his hand, put a hand on his shoulder, placed a hand on top of his head. Embrace him! After everything you felt, Derek could definitely use a hug. He wanted to make sure he knew you were there. He held you back as soon as you were around him. His body was welcoming and solid against yours. You hoped your presence was as reassuring to him as it was to you. The pounding of his heart told you it at least had some impact on him. I know you'll figure out what's best for you. I don't think you have to give up soccer if you do it for the right reasons. Everything you've done and whatever you will do is good with me. Let's not make it about me too much. It's his life, not really mine. I know you'll figure out what's best for you. If you think so, then it's gotta be true. I'll figure it out. But either way, it's still about the journey, not the destination and all that. On the happiest note possible, Derek released his hold on you to ruffle his hair.
Thank you.
Thanks, Michiko. It's cool being able to talk to you about things. I feel so much better. Derek's face was so hopeful and gentle and wonderful. Michiko, What? What is it? Without thinking, you lean towards him. Damn, I'm just leaning towards him. You're naturally drawn in by his beautiful green eyes. But you tugged forward for nothing. He waved the half-formed statement away like it was a broken sting in his face.
Forget it.
Never mind. That's something else I've got to kick around more in my head. Heart-shattering. Can you hear it? Amongst the wash of disappointment, you got a prickling sense of deja vu. He'd made the same move before. Fucking hell. And then, seemingly out of nowhere, Derek let out a bellowing groan. My girl's gonna be too heartbroken after this shit. The massive release of air looked to physical deflate his body. Derek's torso dropped lower and lower until he could have touched his toes. He was expectedly flexible.
Oh, man.
I'm gonna have to go get that ball now. You laughed instantly, partly at the revelation and partly at the dramatic sulk it had said with. Still bit in half, he stuck his hand against his hip and twisted his head up so you could see him wink. It was a gift. I'm not gonna abandon it here. I forgot about that. Oh well, count me in. We tackle life's problems together.
You know it.
Team Michiko and Derek forever. At that wholehearted cheer, Derek ran headlong through the brush. You chased after him with leaping steps. You peeked under every picnic table and behind every trash can in the general area before the lone soccer ball was discovered tucked away amongst some flowers. Thankfully, none of the petals were harmed by and coming to rest in their bed. Derek lifted the ball over his head dramatically as if he was the lead in a video game who caught a brand new item to equip. You applauded. The two of you returned to Derek's car from there, the last one still in the lot, and left the park behind victoriously. He shuffled back into the silent apartment after another long day out. When Derek hit the light switch and illuminated the space, he began to chuckle airily.
Oh.
The first sight that greeted you was counters spilling over with unsorted bags of miscellaneous dry goods. They remained right where you'd left them in the rush of that morning, patiently waiting for their return to be put away. Even though you saw Derek put them there with your own eyes, their existence had entirely faded from your mind. All you'd imagine was stepping through the door was a free and clear path to your room in the apartment and the cozy bed that was included. Your thoughts were spoken aloud, though not by you.
Oops.
I forgot about those. He scratched the top of his head like he was staring at a blackboard covered in algebra, but he cleared away the initial bewilderment with a firm clap of his hands. Derek kept them clasped together while glancing at you. You can go get ready for bed. I'll put them away real quick. I'm gonna feel uneasy trying to sleep if I know this still isn't done. Thank you. You're such a neat freak, but I'll help. He laughed. Some of those are mine. It's only fair that I put them away. That happens to you too. I can never leave a mess uncleaned overnight. Some of those are mine. Derek had to be Derek and offer to do it all himself. However, you had to be you and insist on helping anyway. But I'm the one who's got to do it right now. Derek, that's not the point. His brows pinched with the twinge of regret that his problems was becoming yours. However, you didn't need to explain again how that was what you wanted. Derek swallowed the instinct to insist you to go rest or apologize and grin instead.
Let's get to it.
Alright. Away we put the fun part of grocery shopping is your grocery shopping. The bad part about it is putting all the grocery shopping away. Time was called and you got to work on the final task before rest could come. There was more of a system for the cupboards than there was with the fridge or freezer. You fished goods out of the bags, passed them to Derek, and he placed them on the shelf where they belonged. As he rearranged his serviceable spice to make room for more goods, Derek explained his thought process. He preferred having breakfast stuff in the cupboard at the far end of the kitchen, seasoning and baked goods together in another, the shelf closest to the stovetop and everything else in the middle. When you had gotten the layout, you switched to putting items away directly instead of playing a support role. With your combined efforts, it only took a few minutes. After the plastic bags had been stuffed in the space under the sink, you high-tended, smacking both your hands. You high-tend. Smacking both your hands against Derek's for a job well done. Having a partner to tackle the small things was just as nice as having someone you could count on for life's bigger struggles. Derek had matched your thoughts on forgetting the groceries, and you felt that working together to put those away had brought your minds to sync again. His expression was peaceful. A weight had been lifted off his broad shoulders, both from the perfectly ordered kitchen and company he had within it. Derek waved a hand in an arch that was as wide as a smile on his face. Night, Michiko. Good night. Have a safe trip to your room. Your quality time with Derek was put on a temporary pause to prepare for bed and collapse into your sheets. But in a blink, the sun had risen once more. You repeated the process of getting ready, though with the goal of being ready to face the day rather than conclude it, and you made sure that you could dress appropriately for what you'd be facing. There's long drives ahead. From there, you went into the living room. The perfectly clean counters were a welcome sight after your efforts of the night before. So I feel like, because there's no like obvious DLC chapters of each episode, because that's how I broke my episodes up in this game, I'm just gonna break it up by, I guess, events, just to save my editing self and my throat. So this next episode, I guess we're going to the water park. Hopefully this episode, that chapter wouldn't be too long. If it's long, it's obviously broken into 2. But thank you guys for watching today's episode. Stay beautiful, and I will see you guys in the next one.